Join me now to weigh in, representing Texas's 4th Congressional District, Congressman Pat Fallon. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. So, Congressman, as I pointed out, things aren't getting better at the border, and it was pretty stunning that Biden and Harris had time to make it to California to go campaign for Governor Newsom, but they didn't have time to even stop by the border, did they?
No, Stephanie, thank you very much for having me on again. You know, it's the Biden administration is taking the ostrich approach, which is they're sticking their head in the sand, which is horrific, considering that this problem is getting worse and worse. Now, the national media has really largely moved on, but the problem is it's 4 times worse. It's 400% worse than it was under President Trump. He had reduced illegal immigration to a trickle, and now it's a flood. There were 208,000 border crossings in August. There were 212,000 in July. And I mean, this is the estimated cost from the CBO for all these migrants that are entering the country illegally is $160 billion over the next 10 years. And that's what they're admitting to. So you know the costs are going to be probably double or triple that. And we're already a debtor nation. We can't afford this. And this isn't illegal immigration anymore. It's an invasion.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're still dealing with the pandemic, as I pointed out, and we're learning that those who are crossing over that are being transported into the interior of this country, they're not being asked to get vaccinated.
No, you know what? This is such a good point, because I've tried to ask folks and find folks that are on the left that will defend this Biden policy, because either COVID is a threat or it's not. And this administration clearly believes that it's a major threat to the country. Okay, so they seal the border in Canada. Not one Canadian can legally enter, even if they're vaccinated and take a COVID test to prove that they're negative. Europe, same thing. Asia, same thing. The world over, people cannot come to the country legally, which is really killing our tourism industry. But almost 2 million people can enter the border from the south that are from countries that have virtually no vaccinations whatsoever. And Stephanie, even when they test positive for COVID, they're still released into the American homeland. So this is this Uber super spreader on steroids.
It is. That's a good way to describe it. And so all of those who are really eager to lock us down again, or to make us show vaccine passports, or some people make the difficult decision whether or not they're going to return to work or stay home because they have reasons for not wanting to get the vaccine. It just shows the unfairness here, that migrants are being treated than American workers. And then we saw in Arizona that the attorney general there, he slapped the Biden administration with a lawsuit, even pointing this exact point out in the lawsuit, that migrants are being treated differently than American workers.
Well, it's that President Trump for 4 years put America first. And Joe Biden in the last 9 months has put America last. It's clearly, why in the world are you? I just did a tour of a defense contractor in our district a couple days ago, and there were a lot of workers that came up to me. This place employs about L3 Harris, about 6,000 people, and a lot of them are very concerned, and they fear that they're going to lose their jobs because they don't want to get vaccinated. And while I encourage them to, I also will defend their right to choose. It's their body, and this vaccine was just approved. So it's going to make us, it's going to hurt our capabilities militarily as well if defense contractors, and I fear now that the active duty military is required to take it too, we're going to lose. And even if it's only 5%, that's not only 5% of our military or defense contractors, really damages the American defense moving forward.
So, Congressman, I don't know if you saw this. It's just breaking, and according to some reports here, it looks like the Texas governor, he is about to shut down 6 points of entry along the border to stop these caravans from, quote, overrunning the state. I haven't been able to independently verify this, but I like the idea. I mean, somebody has to do something if the Biden administration won't.
Well, Stephanie, thanks. Yeah, this is the first time hearing it, too. It's breaking news. But the Biden administration, if they're going to ignore this, this is not a crisis any longer. This is a catastrophe. And we do not have the facilities. It's overwhelming the state of Texas. And also, these kinds of policies are making every state a border state. The fact that we had a wait in Mexico policy that worked, and it disincentivized folks from taking a long journey from Central America or Southern Mexico or really anywhere in the world. And what no one's talking about, too, is just this calendar year, 70 different nation states have had people cross the border illegally. And over the last year or two, it's been 120. So it's not just Mexicans and Central Americans. It's folks from all over the world. And folks that some of which, unfortunately, will probably want to do us harm. So I applaud Governor Abbott for are doing this, and we've got to take action and not just ignore this problem like Biden's doing.
Yeah, and then I mentioned that House Republicans had submitted a resolution of inquiry to get to the bottom of some of the questions that they have in regards to the border. Are you part of this, or do you know what questions are going to be asked?
Well, I applaud this effort but what the Biden administration is doing, not only through Republicans but even some Democrats, if they dare question that, don't follow the party line, is they just ignore us. We are a co-equal branch of government, and that's not the way the founders intended the federal government to work. And I represent 787,000 people in Northeast Texas, and they deserve to be heard, Mr. President. And he just does not. He doesn't do it because he's got this willing mainstream media that throws him softballs all the time. So when there's actually a crisis, the problem is, Steph, when you have somebody that's this incompetent, and we just have dereliction of duty after dereliction of duty, people die. There are 13 new gold families because of Biden's incompetence. This is a very serious matter, and we need to demand answers and accountability, because there's consequences.
And I thought I mentioned that in the introduction, trying to give the audience some perspective. Obviously, our audience, they can count, and when we have 1.7 million people who came over, that's the entire population of a state like Idaho. I mean, those are huge numbers, and think of how that's going to change our country.
Oh, massive numbers, and it's not as if we're the people that are crossing are plumbers and welders and engineers. These are folks that the low-skilled labor, and I don't even know how many of them are literate. And that's why mass unlawful migration hurts folks south of the border and north of it. And again, something that no one is really talking about is the Mexican drug cartels are the ones that are cashing in on this. Over half of our Border Patrol and Customs agents are babysitting illegals. They're changing diapers. They're administering COVID tests. They're not protecting our border, which makes it very easy for drug cartels to smuggle more fentanyl, more cocaine, more methamphetamine. So they're making a lot more money with that, but they're also creating indentured servants with the folks from Central America, because many of them can't pay for the transit. So when they get here, they have to work for the cartels, and their families back home are the collateral. So this is the largest human smuggling and sexual trafficking operation the world has ever seen. And Joe Biden is making the American taxpayer underwrite it.
Yeah, people are definitely going to suffer. And, there's people on the left that will criticize you or me for suggesting that, there's low-skilled workers that are coming across the border, and that it's not engineers and people of that, with that education and whatnot. But at the end of the day, coming to this country is a privilege. It's not a right. And so we want to make sure that we are bringing in people that are going to help improve our country.
We should be taking the world's best. There are 3.8 million people the world over that are trying to get to this country legally. Most of them wait about 9 years. And incidentally, 95% of them are people of color. So to have the left inject racism is ridiculous. In fact, I would say that they're racist, because they're favoring one nation state, Mexico, largely over any other. We should put America first, our own interests first. Migrants that come to this country should make us stronger, not weaker. They should be able to contribute immediately to their community and to, quite frankly, our nation's coffers. And folks that are coming here legally do that. Now, why does the left not support legal migration? Because those net numbers probably are voting Republican. So they want folks that are dependent on their God, which is government. And then they'll hopefully vote for Democrats. But what we're seeing in South Texas now is Hispanic American Texans are moving towards the Republican Party because they're sick of the drug cartels, they're sick of the lawlessness, and they're sick of the chaos.
Yeah, no, it's true. And you think of those that are coming here legally, they're leaving their home country for a reason. It's because they want to be part of the American dream. And the Democrats and their policies and everything else, they're destroying that, and they're making it very difficult for people to accomplish that. Well, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephanie. God bless. Take care.
Thank you.